Hello, Jersey. Lynn, welcome. How's everybody doing tonight? On this, where I'm at. Cold. I think it's cold anyway. All right, thank you, Jersey. Appreciate that. Yeah, so tonight, I got another, well, it's some riffs from a song that they're pretty easy to play, but it's one of those things that sounds, more complicated than it actually is. So it's kind of divided into two parts, and the the first part of it, even if you're a total beginner, you should be able to pick it up fairly easily. And then the second part, it's a little bit more challenging, but it's still really not all that difficult. So what we're going to be looking at is it's from Killer of Giants, Ozzy Osbourne. So it's a Jakey Lee era uh, Ozzy song. Anyway, this is just like the intro, and it's quite long. Like if you're familiar with the song, but it just sounds it sounds a lot more complicated than it is. It's actually pretty easy to play. And when I was trying to come up with some more things we could do like this without having to just kind of do the run of the mill stuff that you've probably seen before, I've done before, probably more than once. Yeah, so as usual, there is a link in the description for the tabs, so you can download those and follow along. And if you like this kind of content, you like what I'm doing, it'd be super cool if you hit that thumbs up button. Not so much for that whole YouTube algorithm thing that nobody understands, but it just shows them that I'm doing a good job and you like the stuff I'm doing. All right. Oh, Jimmy D's. I'm sorry. It was so weird when I looked at that. I misread that as something else. I keep forgetting to bring my other glasses down here with me. But welcome. So yeah, get those tabs and we can get started with this. Like I said, it's pretty easy. It just sounds harder than it actually is. All right, I was trying to adjust my music here so I can see it. All right, so if you've gotten the music and you're looking at it, if you're looking at the catched chord names, some of them you might be looking at them going, "Oh my gosh!" Like we've got a D minor 6 add 9. I can't with a flat 5. I can't read it. It's crazy. But anyhow, don't let these names scare you. These are actually really really easy to play. Really easy to play shapes. So let's first just look at this first shape that we've got. That is actually a shape that you're going to be using throughout this. It's not the only shape, but it's quite a bit of it. So what it is, we're playing in E5. Excuse me. We're playing this nice big full voicing of E5. I really like this chord. It's real easy. So if you just take the E, like the power chord shape, the 5th power chord shape that you probably already know. So on the 7th fret of the A string, and then I'm on the 9th fret of the D string, and I'm also on the 9th fret of the G string. Now in the past, I have told you guys that if for the beginners, that if you're having a hard time getting all 3 of those on there, that you can sacrifice that highest string. But in this case, you don't want to do that. You really want to get that note. So that's all we're fretting, but we're going to play all 6 strings. So it's a broken up, like an arpeggio. We're going to play starting on the low E string, and we're just going to play straight up through the G string. So E, A, D, G. Then we're going to skip over the B string and go to the high E string and go E, B, G, B. Hello, Crit. Welcome. You're just in time. We just barely got started. Yeah, so how I play this is I'll just do a downstroke up through the G string. And then when I skip over the B string to go to the high E string, I'll do that with an upstroke and just continue all the way down through the D string. Boost. Then, so that's our E5. And then we're going to simply just move this shape down. So our first finger is now like we're doing a C5. But we're also going to play these open strings, not the low E, but the high E string open. And so we're going to start this right on the A string, and again, just doing it with downstrokes. And I'm just going to go E, A, D, G, or A, D, G, B, E. So that's our first measure. Now, if you're familiar with the song, or if you go and check it out after this or whatever, you're going to notice the guitar sounds a little strange. It's not, there's like a lot of effects going on. There's some chorus and delay and stuff. So some of the things aren't going to, it's going to sound right, like you can play right along with it, but it's not going to be tonally like the same. It's to get that sound. And generally that doesn't really make a big difference, but on this particular one, it kind of does. Angel, welcome. All right. Yeah, so the second measure, it's kind of, it's hard to explain, but you just give it a strum. If you listen to the song, it kind of makes more sense if you're not familiar with it. This was I mean, I thought it was a popular song. I liked it like when when this album came out, but I don't know if this song is really one that people think of. If you saw this thumbnail, you came to this thumbnail, you were thinking Ozzy Riffs, you were probably thinking, it was we were going to do Crazy Train or something like that, which we've done in the past. But this one is just kind of cool because it sounds really cool. It's not that hard, and it's a little bit different. It's probably one that maybe a lot of you haven't played before. All right, so that is the first two measures. And then the second two measures is the same thing. It just does that twice before it moves on to the next part of the intro. So we've got. And then it does it again. All right, so that brings it. That's the. I guess technically we could say this is like three parts, but what we just did is repeat it in the next section. So before we look at that, does anybody have any questions about that, or is anybody having any problems with that? So for this, if you're a beginner, the song is it. I think I have actually on there. I think 80 beats a minute. But don't worry about trying to play it fast. Try to play it so you're playing it in the right time, because this is all evenly spaced notes. And it's going to continue to kind of follow that same idea. So if you play it at that tempo or even slower, it doesn't matter. You'll get it down, you'll get it to where you can feel it, you can feel that timing of about the note spacing, and then you'll be able to speed up. You'll be able to speed up. oh, Never Know Why. It took me a minute to think of what song you were talking about. I haven't listened to that album for a really, really long time. Uh, I remember the song. I know that I never learned how to play it, or at least I don't recall ever doing it. But I'll have to check it out. That could be cool. Maybe we could do a night where we just look at some different riffs from the Jakey Lee era. You're most welcome. Thanks for joining us. All right. So, yeah, so that's the first four measures. And then starting on measure 5, uh, it's the beginning of a repeat. So, again, for anybody who doesn't know, I'll probably say this every time. So, people who are, you're here every week, you can hear me repeat this, but it's worth repeating because if you don't know this, then it can be confusing. So, if you're a beginner, at the beginning of measure 5, the the bar at the beginning it's 2 lines. It's like a thick line, a thin line, and then a colon. So that's the beginning of a repeat. And then if you look down on the next staff on measure 8, at the end of that, it's the same thing, but it's backwards. Now it's the colon, thin line, and then the wide line. So that's the end of the repeat. So basically, what that's telling you is that you're going to go, when you start playing at measure 5, you'll play through measure 8, and then you're going to go back and you're going to play measures 5, 6, and 7, 8 again before you move on. In this case, that's what we're going to do. Sometimes you might repeat the part more than once, in which case, right above the end repeat on the manuscript part, not on the tab part, it'll actually say like X3 or X4, telling you how many times to repeat it. All right, so for this part here, like I said, it's going to start off kind of the same way. Okay, well, Angela, hopefully we'll be able to help you out with that. We're going to start off with the same thing. So we're going to start at that E5, shift down to the 3rd fret for the C major 7. But this time we're going to go, instead of stopping, we're going to go up and then back down. So we're going to play starting on the A string all the way through the G string, or excuse me, through the high E string, A, D, G, B, and then it's going to go to E, B, G, D. So you could down, 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 up, whoops, down, 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 up. It's really weird. It's like really, if I'm like talking about while I'm doing it, I don't have enough coordination to do both things at the same time, apparently. Yeah, so that's the first measure. So kind of the trick for this one, we've just got this one shape. But when you move, this is something that you may have already experienced before just with playing power chords, is that you're holding this shape, and then when you try to slide down, your fingers end up bunching together and you're not on the fret anymore. So what I kind of do is when I slide down, I'm not pressing down on the strings. I'm just kind of, gliding across them, sliding across them really lightly. But I'm trying to maintain that shape. So I actually have some rigidity in my fingers here, not just pressing down, but holding from side to side to keep me in that position. Okay, now that's measure 5. That's like the first. Oh my gosh, sorry. I've got dry mouth really bad. Allergies kicking my butt, and I took Benadryl and it just. All right. Yeah, so at the beginning of the next measure, we're going to be back up to the E5 again. We're gonna pick it exactly the same way. So we have the. Okay, so now this is our first kind of bigger change where we're going to change the chord shape we're doing, sort of. So what we're going to do now for this next one, and this is the one that's got that crazy name. Let me see if I can. D minor 6 add 9 with a raised fifth, I think, over B flat. So I mean, it's a crazy sounding name, but it's actually really easy. It's simple what we're going to do to play this. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the shape you're doing right here, but we're going to move it down a half step, and then we're going to move it down a set of strings, and then we're going to take our middle finger and put it down onto, in this case, it'd be the 9th fret of the G string. So for those of you who know your bar chords, it's like your major bar chord with the root note on the low E string. But instead of barring, we're going to play the B and high E strings open. So when we switch to this chord, now we're going to be we're going to do the same picking that we do on E minor 7. So it's going to start on the low E. E, A, D, G, E, B, G, D. Very, very strange, a little dissonant sounding chord. But in conjunction with this song, if you've never heard it before, it's like actually pretty cool. So that would be, let me play it slower. So it's really, it's weird sounding, it's dissonant sounding, but it sounds cool, with everything together. So you have. All right, so that's measures 5 and 6, and that's half of this part that's going to be repeated. So for any of you that about a month ago, we were doing some stuff that had some bar chords, and some of you were having some trouble with that. Let me know if when you play this, if you're still having the same issue that you were having, even though you're not barring. We can kind of maybe isolate what the what the problem is. All right. So then starting on measure 7, it's back to it's measure 7 is the same as measure 5. So it's just back to the E5 again. And then down to the C major 7. Now we are going to do this this G6 here. So we're going to take that same shape we were doing up here. It's like the major chord shape. So it's just like you're going to play a G major bar chord, but you're going to not bar. So that way, again, the B and high E string can both be open. So we're going to do the same pickings, E, A, D, G, high E, B, D, or G, D. Then we're going to move that shape down a whole step. So now we're at the first, third, and second frets. And again, the high E string and the B string are open. And then that is the end of the repeat, so that those 4 measures are played, well, at least twice. I can't remember. I'm not 100% sure, because this isn't the whole song, so I don't know if I did this for like a lesson, so I didn't put in how many times. It might possibly repeat more than 2 times is what I'm saying. But it's incredibly easy to tell when you get to the next part if it's repeated or not, because it sounds quite a bit different. All right, so that whole sequence again. And then repeating. You believe it's twice? Yeah, that's what it seems like in my memory from the song. All right, so like I said, this sounds a lot more complicated than it is. But this is since it's just these simple shapes, and you're not having to bar the usually especially if you're more of a beginner, anytime you have to bar, it puts a complication in. Some people just like they adapt right to it, no problems. But some people have trouble with it, and it's generally if you have trouble with it, it's because of um, maybe you've had like a wrist injury, or just it can just be your genes, and like the we talked before about sometimes you have to kind of bar more on the side of your finger because the flat part of your finger, the your palm, can have fatty tissue that can make it like really difficult to bar. So even if you can't even play it, you have to play it really slow, it still sounds really cool. Just going sounds like there's more going on than just that. It really has like a good sound. So even if you were just you and that's another thing too, is that don't pick it faster than you can make the transition. It sounds better to go than it does to go, you know, if you have that pause, slow it down so everything is in time. And like I said, the speed will come. But this is one of those things that it still sounds really cool, even if you're not playing it at tempo, and it's not super fast. But yeah, I think it's a pretty cool riff. I think. What do you guys think? I mean, are you guys digging this riff? And I forgot to ask, is there anybody new here tonight? Anybody that's like their first time? Or maybe you're returning from a while back? Okay. I apologize if when I got on, there was some kind of a change at YouTube about advertising and live streams. And so it actually just put a pop up window up saying that an ad was going to come on and disrupt me. So if an ad comes on, I apologize. I'm gonna look into that because that's not cool. Like right in the middle of what we're doing. Oh, that's great, Lynn. Yeah, see, that's the thing is it's just if you can if all you get out of it, at first is just to do that. Maybe you just get the first two chords like that. It sounds really good. And there's like a lot of other songs that actually use those same chord shape like that. I My band has a song that uses these voicings. This is the first chord. Uh, the If you're familiar with that song by Wasp, "Sleeping in the Fire," it starts off with this, or like, or something like that. So you'll get other uses out of it. Ultimate Sin is your favorite album? That's interesting. I like that album. I think it's the best one with Jakey Lee on it for sure. Bark at the Moon has a couple of things on it I like, but I think Ultimate Sin was overall a much better album than Bark at the Moon. But that's just my opinion. And for anybody that is just joining us, there's a link in the description where you can download the tabs to follow along. Okay, so now we are on to measure 9, and this is like the next change, and this is a part that tentatively could be more difficult for some of you, just to kind of depending upon where you are in your guitar journey. But it does have some barring stuff in it that there's really no way around it. It's not too bad. It sounds harder than it actually is, but it might be kind of tough for you at first. So if you're a beginner and you were kind of, you're struggling on that first part, you just kind of stick around there, and you'll have the music, to do it later. You can always go back and watch the video again. But this is more difficult than what we were just doing. Okay, so on this next part, so this is, if you're familiar with the song, I'm just playing up to it. So this is the part that we're going to look at now. This part, I don't know. Like I said, it's all part of the intro. So what we're going to do, yeah, Ultimate Sin does have like the guitar tone. Not on that song so much, but like on Shot in the Dark and stuff. It's a very kind of 80s sounding album, even more so than like Blizzard and Diary of a Madman. Again, in my opinion. Okay, so for this part here, we're gonna start off with a C suspended 2. So in a nutshell, if you just take that shape that we were doing, but now you are going to bar. So I'm on the 3rd fret of the A string and the B and the high E. So I'm just barring across those first 5 strings. So that right there, let's actually just do that first. If you can do this, where I'm not playing the low E, I'm just barring the 3rd fret across the A, D, G, and B string and high E. If you can do that, then this next part may not be as difficult. There's still one other that can be, if you're a beginner, especially if you hadn't had a lot of experience with working with things with your fingers being spread apart. Before we learn how to play, everything we do is like one motion like this. You go to reach out to grab, a drink or something. You you grab everything like that. So it ends up making sorry, lost my train of thought because I'm trying to read while I talk. I shouldn't do that. Not enough coordination. Yeah, if you haven't done a lot of stuff where you're spreading your fingers apart, that could be kind of difficult. Hello, David. Welcome. Yeah, you not really. I mean, we're probably at about the halfway mark, maybe. But you can always watch the first part in the rerun. But there is a link in the description for the tabs, so you can follow along. All right, so we're gonna do that C suspended 2, and we're just gonna play this the same way what we were doing. But here's the thing we're gonna do that's gonna be kind of interesting. So we're gonna start A, D, G, B, E, B, G, D. Wait a minute. Oh, okay, sorry. I was looking on the wrong line. Okay, so this isn't super interesting. What's going to happen? We just have this chord shape. We're going to play this A, D, G, B, E, B, G, D, A, D, G, B, E, B, G, D. So So basically you're just going to run through that twice. So that right there kind of sounds cool too. I think it's got a really kind of a cool sound to it. Then, so that's measures 9 and 10. So that's like you want to think it was like the first two measures of this section. So then for the next one, we got a G minor 7 over C. So we're just going to bar all the way across like what we did at first. Or when we first started this, when I said if you can do this. So you're simply just going to remove your third and fourth finger. Remove them, and now you're going to do the same thing. You're going to go A, D, G, B, E, B, G, D. Now you're going to reach over with your pinky. I mean, I guess you could do it with your third finger, but I think it's much easier to do it with your pinky. You won't lose your leverage on your first finger. You're going to put it on the 6th fret of the high E string. And you're going to pick that and then the B and the G, which will both be the 3rd fret because of where you're barring. Then we're going to move that note on the high E string down a half step to the 5th fret. So now I use my pinky, or excuse me, my 3rd finger. Then I'm going to take it off and just hit the high E and B string. So we've got all right. So that part is a little bit harder, especially that whole barring thing there. So if you are, I mean, if this is all of a sudden like you were kind of getting it or whatever, and then now this is like, don't worry about it. You'll be able to come back to this. So that whole thing I played was those measures 9 and 10. I played through it twice, but it actually does that. If we come down to measure 11, it does the same thing again. So you go through that whole sequence twice. So at the starting with the C suspended 2. 6th fret, 5th, back to the 3rd. All right, then from there it moves up from C to D. So it's actually incredibly easy because you're going to take the exact same thing you did, but you're just going to move it up a whole step. So now you'll be 5th fret, 7th fret. Take those 2 fingers off, so now you're just barring the 5th fret. Now we're going to reach up to the 8th fret on the high E string, to the 7th. So it's picked exactly the same way. The timing's exactly the same way. It's just being played at the 5th and 7th frets versus the 3rd and 5th frets. Okay, so you're having trouble when you're... Okay, so can you do this, the first thing is anybody having any trouble doing this? And I agree with you, Angel Jakey Leist, man. I think he's really underrated. It's like no one ever really talks about him and being in the Ozzy legacy. And I mean, he's a great player. Like Bark at the Moon is like, the guitar solo is really cool and it's hard. Okay. So if you're doing this and you're having problems with it, more than likely the problems you're having is you've got strings that you're not getting pressed all the way down. So this is where the first and second string. So you're getting A, D, G, and then these strings are muted. So what you need to do, the fretboard isn't flat. It's got a little bit of an arc to it, a little bit of a curve. So a really good way to do this. This is one of the only things where I've had any sort of like genetic luck as far as playing a guitar player is that my hands are really flat. I don't have like any fatty between my knuckles here or anything. So it barring is I don't really have a lot of issue with it as a general rule. Um, so what you can try is doing this is roll your elbow close to me. Let me move the music so I can see myself here on the camera. So when I'm playing this, if you bring your elbow in, see what happens to my first finger is instead of being on the flat part on the on the palm side, I'm kind of more on the edge. And what that'll do, it'll give you more leverage because, well, not really more leverage. You're going to be able to press harder because it's a little bit more bony on the side of your finger. So try doing that. Try moving your elbow in closer. And make sure that when you have your thumb positioned, so this isn't like the Hal Leonard lesson, at the first thing in the book it says to keep your thumb on the back of the neck. I'm not saying that at all. But when you're trying to bar, it helps if you have your thumb kind of lined up with your your finger like this. You're going to be able to get more force, more squeezing power. So if you bring around that way, and maybe not lined right up with it, but you can see here I'm kind of staggered. If I laid my hand all the way across, my thumb is actually kind of lined more up with my middle finger than it is my first finger. But that's because I rolled around, I brought my elbow in. But if we're doing it this way, just straight up, I have my thumb right behind it, so I'm getting that good, that pinch. That helped? Great. That's awesome. See, that made my night. My work here is done. Good night, everybody. No, just kidding. So another thing you can do too is you can take your middle finger and put it on top of your index finger so you press down harder. That'll give you a little bit more leverage too. The only thing with that is that it might make it harder to reach over here with your pinky. If I have that finger off, then I can get my fingers more spread apart from each other. Have a crown, as in the Canadian nectar of the gods. Again, my opinion. Now, when I come up to play this note, I don't have to be able to play this one anymore because I'm playing on the same string on a higher fret. So something that you can do there, when I come up to do this, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but you can kind of like see that my first finger is no longer pressing the string down under the 5th fret. And then I have to be pressed down again. Now, ideally, that is not how you want it to be. This is just kind of a way to get you there, to get you going. As you get strength, getting the strength in your hand is like a really important thing. There's lots of different things just playing is going to make it stronger, but there's like exercises and things you can do. A really good one that's just super low impact is just get a stress ball and put it in your hand, and you're not doing this. We're not squeezing it. We're putting it in our hand and we're curling in our fingers like that. That's a good way to really strengthen them up. Like kind of, get a jump start on it. You're sipping a new riff? I've never heard of that. Okay, so we do it here on. Anyhow, I hope that helps. Is if anybody else has any questions or they're having trouble, just speak up. Uh, or so we do this one twice on C. Now we're going to move it up a whole step for D, so it's going to do the exact same thing. Now, when you're doing the barring up here, you'll find that it is easier than it is down here. It's just because your arms in a better position to have range of motion than when you're out like that. Okay, I cannot remember what comes after that. Let's see. Oh, it does that one twice as well. Okay. Okay, so the okay, so then that's where it goes into. There's one a couple of chords after that, and then it goes into like the actual verse. But this is where we're gonna stop because that's a good by ending there. You're just doing an arpeggio up. I'm barring across 5, and I'm picking up the 8th fret. Because that way, if you're just playing this by yourself, like you're just going to play this for somebody, it gives it an ending without having to like, oh, okay, that's where they start singing. It makes it sound like it's an ending, like it's complete. Thank you, Lynn. I really appreciate that. I appreciate you being here. Like you're practically here every week. You're like the OG crew. All right. So that whole second part then. Thank you, Crit. You're OG. Move up. Whoops. Thank you, Jersey. All right, so that is all the parts for this. Well, for what for what we've gone over, like I said, it just a way to kind of give it an ending. Uh, so as far as like all those crazy names that were in there, I mean, you don't really, it's good to know that this is E5, but in that C major 7, those are all good to know. But the whole thing of having the one with the really crazy name. I can't remember what it said, what the chord was again. The what was that one? Gosh dang it! Oh, D minor 6, add 9 sharp 5 over B flat. There, I mean, you're probably never going to see that in a song again. So I wouldn't, don't worry about that sort of thing. But big thing is just this shape. This is something we actually talked about in a lesson a long time ago. Was that you can take basic chord shapes like dyad shapes that these fifths or fourths or thirds or whatever, and then just play open strings around them. It isn't always going to sound good. I mean, if I'm well, actually sounds okay. I was trying to grab one that I thought would sound bad right out of the gate. And that doesn't sound real great. I actually kind of like that. All right. So, does anybody have any questions about any of it, or just any guitar related questions in general? It doesn't have to necessarily be about this. I'm glad everyone like dug this, though. I wasn't sure what to think. If because this is more of kind of a fan song. If you're not really, this problem was probably never been played on the radio or anything like that. Maybe it has, I don't know, but I just wouldn't think so. So I thought it might be a little bit more obscure, but it's just such a cool sounding riff, and it's easy to play. It sounds a lot harder than it actually is. You think it's unexpected? It was unexpected for me too, Crit. Yeah, Jersey, we need to hook that up. Yes, it does sound really cool on acoustic, and I'm glad you said that. Welcome, by the way, Glory. This song might be tuned down a half step in the original key. I don't remember, and it doesn't say on the transcription, so I do not remember. Anyway, it'll be pretty easy to figure out if that first chord is all around E, and if they're tuned down a half step and you play that, it's going to sound pretty bad. So it might be tuned down a half step. That'll be it. It'd either be in standard tuning or down a half step. That really, I can't imagine it being anything else. I'm positive it's nothing else. Oh, Jeff. Okay. Oh gosh, I'm sorry, Glory to God. I'm blind. Anyway, thanks for joining us. Um, if you want, because there's other songs that use these exact same open voicings like this that we could do. I could put that together where we maybe look at a couple other riffs, maybe some from some other artists or whatever that use those same chords. Oh well, thank you. I appreciate that, Jeff. Um, yeah. So anyhow, we could do that because, like I said, there's quite a few songs that use these. Even by a band that I have avoided doing any lessons by this band. Well, I've done private lessons, but not like online or whatever. By this band, I've been trying to like avoid it, but if you guys want it, I'll do it. But I'm not going to tell you what it is. It's not Oasis. All right. So, does anybody else have any questions or anything? And if you're just joining us, sorry, it's over, but there will be a rerun, and there's a link in the description where you can get the tabs. So, if you like the content that I'm doing, if you like this lesson, it'd be really cool if you hit that thumbs up button. All the comments and everything, it just helps them to know that I'm doing a good job, and I can continue to do this for you every Wednesday night. Same bat time, same bat channel. An ad just played. Okay, yeah, I gotta figure out. I don't know why they constantly have to change everything. I finally get to where I can navigate around and set things up, and then they have to reinvent the bicycle. All right, that sucks. All right, I will see what I can do about that. I understand ads are important, for everything, but it's kind of it'd be one thing if I knew when it was going to happen and it was going to happen to everybody, and I could just say, okay, we'll be right back after this commercial break. All right. Well, again, I'd like to thank everybody who come out. You guys that are here every week, it really means a lot to me. Really appreciate it. Um, yeah, get you some tabs, learn the songs. Pretty cool. Um, but yeah, I will be back again next Wednesday. I have no idea what I'm going to do, but I think maybe that would be kind of fun now that we got these chords, kind of keep the juices rolling with that. We still have to go back and finish the easy lead guitar stuff we were doing, but I want everybody to have a chance to kind of digest what we've done. There's really no point of just doing something, piling on a big stack of stuff that you can't play. All right. Again, thanks everybody. I really appreciate it. Um, yeah, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, yada yada yada, all that stuff. Oh, well, thank you, Len. I appreciate that. That's really awesome. You guys are awesome tonight. All right. Well, again, everybody, thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. Are you okay? I don't mean to sound dumb, but you put TX. So are you saying that like you're in Texas, or is that some kind of text coding that I'm too old to understand? That very well could be it. All right. Well, yeah, I'm gonna hit it, guys. But again, thanks everybody for coming out. I really appreciate it, and I will catch y'all next week. Have a great week, everybody. You are all most so welcome. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it. It's awesome. Thanks, man. Means a lot. All right. I'll see y'all next week. Have a great week, everybody. Peace out.